So let's look at the euro for September 26th. See, the euro is now breaking down to lower pricing levels, traded down to the 28.50s. And we continue to get volume distribution, delta volume distribution to expand. This entire time period, we've continued to get newly initiated selling to continue to come into the order flow, and that keeps helping drive this market lower. Anytime the market rallies, it's been getting sold into, and it keeps coming down and retesting recent lows and extending. Trades higher, comes down to recent lows and extends. So we've had just very light amounts of buying to cover coming into the order flow. Not seeing any evidence yet that participants that are holding short inventory from higher levels are doing any sort of heavy covering, meaning they're cashing out of their shorts. So at some point here, the market will create a situation where we trade through a range for a period of time. We never really break lower. We start trading higher, and then the market will start to accelerate a bunch of short covering. So actually now short covering could get triggered as low as trade back up through about the 2900s area. So far we have a fair amount of participants that are holding some short inventory from 2900s level and below. If we trade up through that area, we'll most likely see this inventory start to unwind, but the key area is still up here at the 2980s. That's a pretty critical area. We trade up to this 2980s area, start trading through that area, we could really get a lot of covering to start coming into the market. Yesterday we did come up, that area I was talking about, 2964s. We did trade up and we did pierce through it, but we just didn't get enough covering action. Those that are holding short positions, none of them really of any significant position size, started to unwind and let go of that short inventory, and we never got a good driving move up through this area. As you can see, we pierced up through the 2964s, traded right around that area for an extended period of time, couple hours, and then selling just dominated, and market traded back down to recent lows and through recent lows. So euro not showing any signs of either heavy newly initiated buying and or sellers that are deep in the money now starting to cover. So that's the situation with the euro. Trading lower, expanding the delta volume distributional range, and the open interest ratio is completely out of balance at this time. A growing number of participants holding short positions, and almost no one of any significant position size holding long in this market at this time. That is the euro. Let's now take a look at the S&P E-mini. S&P E-mini is traded lower. We've traded down now about the 1433s level. You can see there's just a minuscule amount of long inventory hanging on here as the market trades lower. Puts us in a little bit of a delta divergence where price is lower than recent pivots, but delta volume analysis showing us we just have a very minor amount of long inventory trying to hang on here in this market as it trades lower. So not really a lot of long inventory support at this point. We do have overhead resistance here where we have sellers that have been selling from this 1441s area, holding short inventory. We have inventory being held here off the 1450s, and of course a level up here off the 1457s. So that's our next levels of overhead resistance, where we actually have participants holding some inventory, where they have their butt on the line with real positions. The only support and resistance I ever pay attention to in the market is an area that's actually holding some inventory. So these markets, both Euro and ES, I would not be surprised to see bounces throughout the day. Anytime a market gets completely out of balance, it changes the physics of the supply and demand game. Anytime you don't get a continuance of newly initiated sellers driving the markets lower, the markets tend to get covering action and they bounce a bit. At some point, if we ever get a catalyst where there's a bid comes into these markets, maybe some news hits and it's favorable to euro and not favorable to US dollar, we get equities buying and there's news favorable to the overall indexes, the ES now holding a predominance of short inventory and hardly anybody long, it's very easy for these markets to start getting into some pretty strong short covering rallies. So they're ripe for short covering rallies at this time. So far though, ES is we are still getting sellers coming back in and amongst those that were holding long, just unwinding. So we had a little bit of buyers right into the end of the day yesterday, and that long inventory is starting to bleed out. We're getting long liquidation through this morning's action, and it makes sense. We have DAX down, we have Euro down, we have US dollar up. We're seeing the markets bleed off some. Now the key about this area, this is over 30 points now down from our recent highs. So smart money participants that sold this 1464s, 1465s area on up, about the upper 3-point range of price, trade down to the 1435s area has allowed those participants to be buying to cover at 30-point profit targets. The next area that would be important would be 40-point profit target area. That'd be about the 1427s, 1426s, 1425s. So we have gotten some covering here. You can see we're getting some bounces as we traded into that area. That is smart money participants that have positions that are 30 points in the money cashing out. Every 10-point increments, not uncommon to see some cashing out. We did have a fair amount of selling too in here off the 62s, 61s, 60s area. So as we work our way down, if we trade down as low as 1430s, that's an area where we have another group. There was a fair amount of selling in here, maybe doing some buying to cover, taking some profits. Delta volume distribution in the ES real quick are our open interest ratio, predominance of participants holding short inventory, and not that many holding long. ES is trading lower following that DAX is down on the day. The German DAX, the EU markets are down, as is the Eurodollar, and the US dollars up a bit this morning. We'll see what happens throughout the day here. Watch if we do get any sort of rally action. Just realize that the ES being predominantly short could get some buying to cover, get some bounces. Even though the market keeps trading lower on occasion, any catalysts come in, you can get some pretty strong bounces when you are in a very out of balance open interest ratio standpoint. That is the market levels report for Wednesday, September 26th.